Hi guys, welcome back to the Clack Shack. And today in the Clack Shack, it is a nice and cool 93 degrees. But I didn't want to put this off anymore. The Pro has arrived and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to fight the heat today to try to get this thing put together, get it installed, software updated, the whole 9 yards. Now, a lot of people have been telling me they wanted me to make a video of putting it together and get it operational. So if you're not in it for the long haul, guys, this is probably going to be a lengthy video because folks want to know step by step how to put it together, how to get it up and going. And so I'm going to try to do just that. It is going to make for a lengthy video. So if you don't need help with putting it together, you may want to skip through parts of the video. But if not, you can watch and we'll figure this out together. Because to be honest with you, I put my D1 together, but this is the first time seeing a Pro. I know there are some differences. There's a few more cables and stuff like that. But we're going to kind of do a crash course, and I'm going to bring you along with me. And we'll see from a real world perspective how difficult it is to put together. And we're just going to do it. So I've got my package from my D1 Pro here. And these are just the feet that they sent me extra for ordering it. So stick around for a few minutes. I'm going to try to get the camera over where you can see a little better, and we're going to get to taking this thing out of the box and making sure we got everything and putting her together. So stick around for a few minutes. All right guys, I'm going to sit here on the corner of my little table, and in a future video, my tabletop is going to get redone. This was just some stuff I had laying around. I needed a bigger tabletop, so I just kind of screwed this to it to make it bigger. But in a future video, I am going to make me a cool tabletop once I get caught up. But it's not looking like that's going to be happening in the next little while, so that project is going to wait. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tape off of here. It obviously was secured with tape pretty well, so hopefully nothing escaped the box while it was in transit. All right, so there we go guys, we're in the box. Not sure what this is. Like I said guys, I haven't watched a whole lot of videos or anything else on these things either, so I'm kind of going at this blind. Another one of those pieces of metal, so I don't really need that, so I'm going to stick that back in this box. I don't need that at the moment. Some random pieces. I'm guessing this is my little kit for testing stuff. I could actually use that mouse pad. We might have to play with that. I could take that into the house and use it with my desktop. So that's more or less, those are just going to be secondary items, not needed for putting the machine together. And we'll see what's in here. Quite a thick book there. All right. All right, so this is it's more or less an idea book. So we're not going to be needing that. We have plenty of ideas already. Thank you card. Yeah, not today, maybe later. Looks like it's just a code for maybe a discount or something. Quick start guide. So we're going to need to be keeping this handy. And instructions. So we're definitely going to want to keep these two guys right here handy for the duration of this venture we are about to go upon here. So I'm going to move this stuff over here out of the way, just so we got plenty of table space. And let's take off the first layer of foam here. All right, so it's pretty much laid out in the same manner in which the original D1 was. This thing almost, maybe it's just because it's in the box, this thing looks larger than the D1. Maybe it's just because it's in the box. But anyway, it's pretty much laid out the same way. We got a box over here. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up and see what's in here. I'm trying to familiarize myself with everything that's in the box. Looks like some more safety glasses. Ah, look at that. XTool saw my XTool toolbox and decided to send me one of that they made, so that's cool. Screwdriver, card. Okay, all of our small pieces are going to be in there. And then got some zip ties here. This appears to be some glasses. Let's see if we've upgraded since the D1. Our glasses, or have they stayed the same? No, they have been slightly upgraded. Not quite as bold. I'm just curious to see what these look like, guys. I mean, the last set, they look not so great. So let's see what these look like. Not a bad design. They are kind of like the old safety glasses that you wear. So they're still green. So they got the green tint. I probably won't be using these much. I like my orange ones, but it's always good to have an extra pair. So when I got somebody over or something, so I'm going to take all of this unnecessary stuff for putting it together and lay it over here out of the way. Guys, y'all bear with me on my sweat rag. I just came off a 4-day trip. The reason I hadn't put out any content, and the reason this thing's been sitting in my kitchen for 2 days is because I had a work-related trip that I had to go on. And so the past 4 days I have been in Orange Beach, Alabama, enjoying the heat and the sunshine down there. And I know what you're thinking. I don't need any more heat or sunshine, but that's where they chose to have our business trip go to, and that's where I wound up going. And oh Lord, that is a large module, guys. I'm gonna open this just to where I can kind of awe at the size of this thing. If I can figure it out, guys. If not, I'll fix to cut it. There we go. Ooh, that's a hoss. Yes, sir. That is substantially larger than the D1. And I do mean substantially larger. Cool part about it is, guys, everybody has fussed and they have listened. This one has the single set screw, kind of like the one we looked at the other day. It's got a single set screw. It almost looks identical to that one. So it's got a single set screw, and the nozzle is already attached, so you don't have to do anything with that, and it appears to be attached pretty securely. That's good. Shield's already in place. It does have the new shield that has the ventilation to the rear coming out of the behind of the laser module, but there's still a lot of ventilation coming through here, so not real sure what the purpose of that is, but I'm sure in a wind tunnel it would explain itself. But yeah, that is a beast of a module right there. I can't wait to cut something with this thing. So just for a safety precaution, I'm going to lay this over here away from where I'm going to be working because I don't want to knock it off in the floor. So we're going to move this over here for now too. Do not want to tear up my machine before I even get it put together. So looks like we're down to the main pieces. This thing looks bigger, guys. I guess it's just because I'm used to seeing it put together. Let me double check something. All right. The very front, from side to side, we'll call it 23 1/4. It's a little shy of that, but let me check the XTool D1. 23 1/4. Okay, so it is obviously just an optical illusion, but laying like this, it looks massive. And it could be that I've been gone for 4 days and haven't looked at my laser in a while. So that could be it. So here we have one of the sections. This is going to be the rear, I'm guessing, because it has no tracks, it has no mechanical parts whatsoever. There's our little timing bar. This bar is the one that goes between the sides to keep the belts in sync, I'm assuming, just like the D1 has. And all right, that is going to be our gantry. And for those of you that don't know the terminology, basically this is where the laser head will mount, and this is the part that's going to go forward and back. So we'll lay that there, leave it as it is. I've got some cables hidden in here. Looks like a main power cable. I'm guessing there's some more pieces hid up underneath here somewhere, because that is missing some parts. So this is going to be the front half with the antenna. And for everybody, if you're watching my video, for crying out loud, this is an antenna. It's not a hook, it's not a knob, it's an antenna. And there's a wire that goes from there into the controller and the little motherboard there. That's a wireless antenna for your Wi-Fi. So if you're brand new, before you embarrass yourself and call that a knob or a handle, that would be an antenna. Just trying to save some folks some grief there. All right, so here we got another piece of this outfit. That looks a little different than what I'm used to, but we'll get it together in a minute. That's gonna be one of our sides. I just can't tell which one with it sitting there like that. Okay, found some more goodies stashed under the middle here. This is gonna be the other half of the power source. Significantly larger power block than is on the other one. I've got a USB cable, which doesn't hurt to have a spare, but I've actually got a longer one that I've been using to do my stove covers with, so really don't need that. Got a little cable here, which I'm assuming is going to be needed in the putting it together, so I'm going to lay that there. And here it is, guys. I have no idea what that says. It is spelt, and in redneck, it would be ping shing. I don't know what it is in Chinese, but it's very slippery stuff. That, from what I can tell, is basically like a white lithium grease, and it came with my other machine as well. And that's what I use to put on the rails and keep everything sliding real easy. And it actually seems to work pretty well, so I've kind of stuck with it. All right, here is the other side for this. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. This is some clack advice. I don't know if this is in the book or not, but do not cut this zip tie until you absolutely have to. That way you make sure that this cable stays in here and stays semi-tight and it doesn't get into a tangled up mess. I messed up on my D1 and cut it too early, and it haunted me later because it just kept getting in the way. It kept getting pinched places. So that is the entire contents of the box, guys. And as we all know, me and my camera don't get along, and it likes to shut off after 20 minutes because of whatever Nikon put in it. So I'm gonna split the video here and I'll be right back. All right, guys and gals, we're back. All right, I've gotten rid of everything that we're not gonna need to put this thing together. And I went and acquired myself some wire cutters. If you don't have wire side cutters like this, I would recommend a good pair of like utility scissors or whatnot for cutting these zip ties. I do not encourage you to use a pocket knife unless absolutely necessary, because you can get a nasty cut trying to do that. So just a little waiver. Get yourself a set of side cutters. If you don't have those, most of you should have like some utility scissors in your little kitchen knife set maybe. Those actually work pretty well on zip ties. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing. I'm gonna get the book out because I'm gonna try to follow the book. But guys, y'all know how I am with instructions, so hang on. This may be a bumpy ride because I like to try to jump past instructions sometimes, and I can get myself in trouble at times. All right, so it says page 1 for English. I'm assuming that's what that means. English, page 1. This looks like a bunch of warnings, and how to put the plugs together, how to set the tension. Guys, it's a good thing I don't need really detailed instructions, I'm guessing. Let me see here. Assemble, page 4. Okay, the instructions apparently is not the go-to book. Apparently it's going to be the quick start guide is the one you're going to want. So instructions is more of a maintenance thing. So we're gonna go here. This looks a lot better. I think I can follow this. We've got some nice illustrations here. So and it even says no scissors are included in the pack, so you're going to need to provide your own scissors. That's helpful. All right, so they're calling these pieces by letters. I wonder if did they do me a favor and put the numbers on there? No, they didn't, I don't think. So this is going to be B. All right, this is the front. Let's just lay this thing out. Like I said, let's just skip some instructions here. So I'm going to lay this out according to their illustration. So the front is going to be this part here, and then is also known as B. The part with the belts, the belt in it that has the motor is going to go to the left over here, and the motor is going to go toward the front. So we're going to lay that one there. And this one is going to go to the right. Both of those, when you're putting it together, are going to need to be oriented like so. Hang on. There we go. So when you put this together, of course you're going to have this side on the outside of both of them. And you're going to want this little flange needs to be pointed up. That's what's showing in the illustration. And that's the way we're going to go with that. So both of those should be like that. The back piece is pretty basic. It's just going to sit back there. So the next thing we're going to need is we're going to need some screws. Let me go to the next page, guys. All right, so this is the where you get to the screws here is going to be on page 6. And if you're doing this and following my instructions, first of all, be careful because you know I'm not good with instructions. But it says we're going to need 16 of the screws, and it's showing the little screwdriver. And I'm going to try to do this using the tools they provided and not my own tools, to be fair to all you guys that are trying to put it together at home. That way I don't lose you because you're in here looking for a tool and you're like, I don't have that. So we're not going to be using tools from my shelves. We're going to be using the tool they provided, which is not a bad little screwdriver, to be honest. All right, so the way that these screws are compartmentalized, which is kind of hard to get them out of there, so let me grab a magnet because I don't want to dump everything out. All right, I want to dump all the screws out, but I've got to sift through here and find the appropriate one. Grab another magnet. I'm going to use a couple of magnets to categorize these screws with. Feel free to borrow this little trick from working on computers and things over the years. Magnets are my friend, and you can take these magnets. One, you can use them to get the screws out of the little bucket here. And once you get the magnets out of the bucket, you can secure the lid on this guy because there's other sets of screws in here that you're going to need later. So I'm going to set that to the side. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to separate these things based on the size, because there's 2 or 3 different size screws in here. So this magnet here is going to hold all the short screws. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It says it's supposed to have 16 of them. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've actually got 17 of them. Maybe they sent me extras. All right, so that's the smallest screws that come in the pack. And then we've got 4 of the longer ones, which probably are going to be the tension screws. I'm going to put them together on this little magnet here. And that keeps you from knocking them off and losing them, guys. It's nothing worse than losing a screw and then having to hunt for it before you can finish your project. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got 5 of the mid-size screws, which have the red Loctite on them. So they've kind of color-coded them. When you're putting this together, the ones with the red are going to be the mid-size screws. The ones with blue are going to be the longer ones. And then the pile of screws that have no coating on them, the little short stubby ones. So you've got 3 different sizes of screws in the main assembly part. This step is showing that we need 16 small screws, and they're going to be going in the ends. And this is remarkably like the D1, so not really reinventing the wheel here. And what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide these together. Make sure I don't have a zip tie or anything. Let me get my sweat rag out of the way. Make sure I don't have a zip tie or anything that needs to be cut. And just to hold this thing together, guys, just to keep it from falling, I'm going to go ahead and start this top screw because it is showing that this is one of the small screws right here. So I'm going to go ahead just to keep it from falling apart while I'm trying to get everything sturdy. I'm going to just put 1 screw right there. All right, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. But the only problem is I am going to have to cut that zip tie at this point because I've got to move this out of the way. So I'm just going to take and gently slide this guy back a little bit so that I can get it out of the way. I'll go ahead and slide these together. This piece is the one that has the port holes in it and everything, so you're going to kind of have to fish this guy in there a little bit. So you got to go around. Yeesh. This is going to be a little tough with that. So you kind of got to go in over top of those other ports. Yeesh. Okay, I'm not really digging that. Feels like I might be going to break something. There it goes. Okay, it finally slid. And then once you get it all the way to the back, you're going to have to push it in a little bit to get it flushed up inside there. And just like I did on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and put me 1 screw in here just to hold everything together so it's not falling apart when I'm trying to manipulate it. All right. So let me move around to the other side. I'm going to check my time on my camera because y'all know me and this camera don't agree. So we're halfway to it cutting off on me. So hopefully we can make it through the main frame out part. All right. So now make sure you get this little belt out of the way so you don't cut it. This metal, this machine metal is kind of sharp, so you don't want to cut the belt by having it in the wrong place at the wrong time. Another short screw. All 4 of these top screws, it is showing to be the little short ones, the black ones. I'll call those black because they don't have any color on them. And then same thing here, guys. Go ahead and put me a black one in here. All right, like I said, I'm not tightening these down all the way. I want to get them in there tight enough to where if I do move something, it's not going to damage any threads, but I'm not putting them in there all the way tight. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and get the main frame laid out and get it started, and then we'll cut to a different section of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and the black screws, and like I said, I'm calling them black because they do not have any red or blue coloring on them. I'm going to go ahead and try to get everything semi-lined up as far as the holes go and get these screws started. At this point, I'm not going to be cranking any torque on anything. I want to get it lined up as best I can. and go ahead and get these in there, and make sure all my holes are where the holes need to be to get the screws in. And then once I get them tightened, like I said, I'm leaving maybe a couple of millimeters between the shoulder of the screw and the surface of the metal, just enough to where things can move if needed. And I'll show you why I'm doing that here in a minute. And I'm pretty much using the same process I did on my D1 guys, and I know there's been some people out there that say that this is intimidating and you know, you don't have a whole lot of mechanical ability. And I promise you guys, you really don't have to have that much mechanical ability to do this. And that's the purpose of this video, is for those of you that are intimidated by it. Hopefully it will, it'll make you feel a little more comfortable about it. Okay, so now I've got the front ones done, and I have a total of 6 more that have to go into the back. So we're gonna go around to the back here. And I'm gonna put these 6 more in here. Now, on this back, you do have to remember, there's gonna be a couple that are gonna be to hold the tension screw is gonna go in here. So there's a hole, the tension screw hole is kind of in the middle. And if you'll look at your book, on the book, it shows you got 2 down low, 1 up top, and then this one here. So that's what we're gonna do. That middle hole that is in the middle of this rear crossbar, do not put a screw in it. One, there's no threads there, so you're not gonna be able to put a screw there. But that is gonna be where the longer tensioning screws for the belts go. So you don't wanna try to put nothing in there just yet. All right, and we should have 1 screw left over in this part, because like I said, I had 17 and it said it required 16 screws. So I should have 1 left over. Unless I miscounted, I may have 2 left over, who knows. All right, so I've got my 2 top ones. Like I said, all of these are just, they're just in there. They're not tight right now. I've got all the ones in the back. I've got the 4 on the top here. Got those in. And then I've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side, on the side facing me. So according to this, that's all the screws that I'm supposed to put in at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn to the next page, but I am going to clip the video so that we don't get cut off. All right, guys, we're making good progress so far. If you're building along with me, just like I said, just make sure you have 3 screws on this end, on either side, so that's a total of 6 here. You've got 2 here in each space, 2 here, and then 6 here. So 6 plus 4 is 10, plus the other 6. That's 16 total screws. Now I still have left 2 screws that are short, and I don't know if those are extras or if there's gonna be an application for them later, but I'm trying not to get ahead of the instructions, so we're gonna wait and find out. The next step is saying that I need 2 of the screws with the blue on them, which are the longer ones. These screws also are going to be the ones that connect to the belt tensioners. So I'm going to move my little trolley here back a little on this side. And then I'm going to come over here and install these 2 screws. Now, I am not going to tighten these up tight. Like I said, I just want these screws in. I want them to hold for now, and that is it. I do not want them tight. So all you're going to want to do is just reach in there. There's a little block where that belt runs around, and just get that guy started. Once you get it in there good and started, you should be good. And then before we finish, I am going to show you how to tension that belt up and make sure that it's where it needs to be, because right now it looks awfully slack for some reason. I'm not real sure, but we're gonna have to tighten that guy up. So let's go back to the other side here, and let's see what the next step it says for us to do is. All right, so we got those 2 pieces installed, and we're moving to page 8. That was page 7, this is page 8. Page 8 says that we're going to need the timing bar, which is this guy right here. This is what connects the two belts to make sure that as it moves, these two belts, one doesn't get ahead of the other. My timing bar has a little sticky stuff on it, so I'm going to wipe that off and make sure this thing's clean before we put it on. I don't know that it would hurt anything, but I don't want it sticky. All right, so I've got to have another part. That other part is going to be in here, which is going to be that little linkage. And there's the linkage. And seeing as I don't have another bar, I'm assuming my linkage is going to connect directly to the motor, which appears to be the case. And I'm going to use another magnet to get these screws out without pouring the whole box out. So I have 3 of these screws in my pack, and it appears that I only need 1. So maybe they gave us extras. But one of my screws is already started on this little linkage here. But I'm going to go ahead, before I put the bar in, I'm going to go ahead and get this other one started so I can keep up with it. And I'm going to go ahead and drop those 2 screws back in the box, because I don't know that there would be another need for those, but we may find out later that there is. So the instructions say to put the linkage on the bar, which is pretty self-explanatory. Now, this is going to be the part that some folks get in trouble with. This thing has to be tight, okay, guys? One thing that I will say, I didn't notice any, there might be a little bit of thread lock on the tips of these things, but you got to make sure you get this thing tight. And the way this is going to work is it's got to go all the way to the other side. The slack that's in this belt, you're going to want to kind of, to be honest with you, I'm going to move this this part to the gantry. I'm going to move it forward a little bit and try to pull that belt out the back. If you'll take a screwdriver or something, you can kind of push that belt back towards the front of the machine. And I wish I could show you, but I'll come around here in a minute and try to get it. But what you're going to want to do is this belt on this right side. Hang on, let me move the camera around where I can show you, because I don't want you guys to miss this part. All right, guys, I'm just going to show you this piece right here, and then I'll get back over where you can see the other side. But right there, you're going to need that belt to come out the front of that little piece that connects to the gantry. It just needs to come straight forward out the front of it. There's some little rollers inside there, and you just need that. And you can take a screwdriver or something and kind of push it out. But you need to have the slack needs to be hanging out the front like that, so you can connect it to that bar. All right, guys, I'm gonna be off camera, but I wanted to make sure everybody could see how this goes in, because if you've never put one of these together, this could be challenging. There's a little toothed wheel on one end of this thing, and there's a hole inside here. You'll see the little bearing, and there's the end of the rod. The belt actually comes out right here. The belt goes to these teeth, and then that little piece of the rod right there actually inserts into that bearing that is in the wall of the XTool. So let me get it put in here. All right, once you put that on, this little linkage right here slides up on the bar, and what you're going to do is you're going to line up these 2 bars. Make sure that this piece goes all the way into that bearing, and if you turn it lightly, it should make this this little piece here should move if the belt is on it. Once you get those 2 pieces lined up, what you're going to do is you're going to take this little sleeve and slide it down. I would actually recommend to make sure you get this thing where it needs to be. You're going to want to kind of center it to where this screw and that screw both can grab that rod really well. All right. Once you get it to where it needs to be, make sure it doesn't need to be tight. It just needs to hold that bar there, and you do not want this bar sliding. And tighten that up. I'm only tightening right now. I'm only tightening the screw that's on this side. Right there, you should, hopefully you can see that. I'm only tightening that one screw, and that's just to keep this thing from moving. but to allow these to move, because I've got to time these two sides right here to make sure they're the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push both of these sides as far back as they will go. And once you do that and get your tension right, then I'm going to adjust the rest. But we're going to just follow the book for right now, and then I'll show you my approach at tightening that and timing everything and getting the tension correct. But I'm going to go ahead, since the book doesn't show that step yet, I'm going to move the camera and we'll go to the next step. All right, guys, heat's starting to get on me. I'm sweating a little bit. All right, so we got that. Let's go to the next step, see what it tells us to do. All right, so now they're basically showing to slide them down to the front plate. All right, so that's how they're recommending to time this thing, is they want you to slide both of these to the front plate until they hit, I'm guessing. So I'm going to slide both of them down all the way to the front plate. All right, now they want you to tighten them up. So that's the way that they're recommending, is to use the front plate. And you're going to want to pull these back until you get them all the way to the back. But there's not enough tension on this guy over here, and I know that's going to create a problem. If I do this step before I tension it, I suspect I may have an issue. So I'm not going to. We're going to, you know how I am about instructions, guys. We're going to veer from the instructions just a bit here, because this is the part that I think a lot of people mess up on and wind up with belts not correctly tightened, or getting a little slide from one side to the other out of their machine. So we are going to stop right here for a moment. And what I'm going to do, this belt came from the factory tensioned to this point. All right. Assuming that the belts are the same length, these are in the same position, and they're anchored to the same spot, and both belts are the same size. If I move this tension screw the same amount as this tension screw, then it should be very close to the same tension on each belt. And that's what I did on my other machine. It worked. It works well. I haven't had any problems. So that's what I'm going to do on this one, guys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my caliper for this, and I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to put it in behind the little block, the tension block, and I'm just going to pull it, slide it back using the top of the caliper and that little teat on the back, and I'm going to measure it. And it's saying that that's 8.3 millimeters. All right. So we'll measure it one more time just to be sure. 0 in my machine. Pull it out. 8.3. So I am going to go to this side now, and the cool part about it is, if you use a caliper, you can't see the measurement when you're doing this on this side, but on this side, the way the machine is built, if you put that caliper on there and you just pull it to you, you can actually sit here and watch the screen as you tighten this little screw here. All right, guys, me and this camera are still not getting along. Before I get too involved in the belt tension, I kind of left out a step. I was thinking that the book was going to tell you to do this, but they didn't. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten these screws up. And typically speaking, I haven't had a problem with these things not being square, but I recommend, as you tighten these, just make sure with a square that it pulls up tight. By nature of design, as long as all these cuts are square, that shouldn't be a problem. Unless you leave these screws loose, or you bend it when you're putting it together. All of this should square up. That one looks good. I'm going to tighten this last little screw here down. And I'll wait and tighten that one last. That's personal preference, guys, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Because these screws here may actually twist or pull the chassis a little bit. So you're going to want to tighten those down. in my opinion, first, then do the top one. And don't go too crazy on these guys, which this little screwdriver would make it a little difficult to break them, but it's possible. So that one's good. So I'm gonna go to the front now. Like I said, I have never had an issue with my D1, and I did this exact process. So I'm not anticipating having any issues with this one, because it's basically the same thing with just some minor upgrades to the electronics and of course a bigger head. Good. But the design of this thing and the way it goes together, the holes and the pieces are cut, precision cut to fit. I mean, you'd have to work a little hard at it to mess this up, I believe. I think you'd almost have to have something in the way in there and pinch something in between the pieces. But like I said, do these first, then do that one. My advice. So it looks good. I've got all 4 of the corners the way I like them. We're going to slide both of these to the front. And because my camera quit on me again, I'm going to go back here and just make sure that I've got my tension to where I want it. I'm going to measure this side over here to make sure these guys are even. That one's back at 8.4. So I'm going to tighten that one down a little bit. I moved it some earlier. That feels right. About 8.2. So I'm going to go to this side with my caliper. And like I said, using a caliper this way, you can actually watch the reading as you tighten the screw if you use a caliper. And I like that. That way, as I turn this screw, it's going to pull that caliper closer and closer together until I get the torque where I want it. So that's 8.3. It's a little more. 8.2 right there. So I can tell you that from the back edge of this little block that is used for tensioning on both sides is exactly this. Well, I won't say exactly, but I've got it at 8.2 millimeters on both sides. So even if my tension is not enough, or if it's too much, at least it's equal. So I can go do my timing now without worrying about having an issue. That's the one thing that if I was recommending anything to XTool, I would get your tension the way you want it before you connect this bar. And then as per the instructions, I'm going to push these where the gantry connects. I'm pushing them all the way to the face of the machine. All right, guys, the camera's not digging the weather. It keeps shutting down on me, and I have no knowledge of it. So once you get these 2 pieces where the gantry connects pushed all the way down into this top frame right here, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you've got this pushed all the way over into where the bearing sits over here. You've got the belt on it. Your tension should be okay by this point. So once you do that, I mean, I recommend setting the tension before you set this exactly where you want it, because you can always loosen these, do your timing, and then tighten them back. Even if, at this point, even if these move independent of each other, until you get to this step, you're good. So go ahead and get your tension correct, the way you want it, then time this before you put the gantry on. Then you get these 2 pieces, make sure that they're both touching the bottom. And if you'll look between this crack and this little coupler here, you can actually see when you get the coupler, the crack, into between those 2 pieces. And then if you tighten up each side of this, and tighten it up good and snug, it'll hold this bar, and this bar will ensure that neither one of these moves independent of the other one. That way everything is moving as it should. And then once you do that, I went ahead and did this because I thought my camera was recording when it wasn't, but there's a cable here that goes from here to the motherboard here. And you'll plug that in, make sure that the little teeth that are sticking out go into the cutout in the other part of the plug. And those are actually like little clamps that hold that thing in there. And you do not want to force that in the wrong way because bad things could happen. But that's the point to where I'm at right now. But I'm going to take a break, let this camera cool down. I've got the fan on it now, so give me a few minutes and I'll be right back. Moving on to the next step. Like I said, I hate you missed page the zip tie process, but if you're following along with me, you missed out on page 12 and 13 thanks to my camera and the overheating issue that we have. But all that is putting this cable in and putting those zip ties in. So we're going to move on to page 14. I'm going to lay this down so that we don't have a problem with it. And we got to have the gantry for step 14, or page 14. It says to cut the white zip ties, but keep the black ones. So we're going to cut these white or clear zip ties. We're going to cut these off. Put those over here in the junk pile. And that is going to release the cabling from it so that we can go to the next step here. All right. It is showing. Hang on, let me get my bearings, guys. Like I said, I am carrying you with me on this little. I don't even see a plug that looks like that. There it is. All right, tucked away inside here is a plug. All right, you're gonna have to untuck that plug from underneath the belt, and then it plugs into this one. Again, the little tips that stick off of the plug go into where the gap is where you're plugging it into. So make sure you do that correctly. This one's kind of easy to, it's kind of a no-brainer if you look at it because it sticks towards the top. If it went the other way, it would be in the way and you probably wouldn't have enough cable to reach it. So that one should be self-explanatory. Guinea's come to visit. Apparently she has missed her cat food for the past 4 days while I've been gone. The next step on page 15, it says we need the red screws, which, like I said, use magnets, guys. They're your friend. Keeps your screws together. And it's showing that we're going to take this, and knowing the XTool, this is going to be on the front, so that makes that kind of easy. And then this is going to go in here like so. Now, I'm going to move these away from the front a little bit to give me some room here. Throw my cabling over in there so I don't pinch anything. All right, so it's showing the red screws. It is showing we will need 4 of them. And the red screws are gonna go into these holes here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna need another hand is what I'm gonna do. Hang on. Let me get that in the screwdriver. Yep, Guinea says, hey guys. All right, I'm gonna get that one started. Go over to the other side, get one started over there just to hold everything together. So I'm not fumbling it. I'm gonna put this one in the opposing side so as to try to hold this thing a little level. If I put them on the same side, it's going to twist on me, I know. But yeah, it's still going to try to twist, but that's okay. All right, so 4 total screws. It's showing them going into these end holes here into the gantry. I recommend getting them all started before you start tightening anything, as with pretty much anything that you're putting together. On this other side, on this left side, there's going to be an extra hole. You don't want to put a screw in that yet. That's the tension screw for the belt that's under here. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this side down a little bit. I'm just getting that one bottomed out to where the shoulder of the screw lines up everything for me, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. This would actually be a lot easier with a power screwdriver, but I'm trying to keep it basic so that everybody can follow along and use the tools that you provided. All right, so I'm not tightening these all the way, guys. I'm gonna go back to them once I get these ran up to the shoulders, and just to make sure everything lines up like it's supposed to. That screw looks a little long. Oh, it goes through that hole. Okay. That's how that works. I guess this one's gonna go through the hole too. Instead of using shorter screws, they just kind of made the hole for these screws go through these two little visible holes here. Kind of messed me up for a minute there. I was thinking my screws were going to be too long. Now that's not going to help with the Loctite situation. All right, so I've got them all shouldered up. Everything feels flush. It doesn't really have any wobble in it, so I'm going to go ahead and snug that down right there. All right, got that on there. All right, so now we're moving along to page 16. I already got one red screw left. I got two little small ones. Page 16 is saying to put the tension screw in for the gantry. So I'm gonna turn that around just for convenience. It's showing to use a blue screw because it's got the blue thread lock on it, and put that in right there. So I'm going to tighten that down, and on this one, my experience is that this is already torqued. The last time I put my D1 together, I didn't really mess with this guy. This screw on the tension set is already tight, and so what I'm going to do here is just snug that down until it gets snug. I'm not going to try to force that or tighten that. I'm going to leave that alone. The one thing I didn't check is these little screws on the side right here are what locks your tension. And I don't think I tightened this one down a while ago, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit that. So, my bad on that, guys, but good news is we haven't ran the machine, so it shouldn't be an issue. I will recheck those as far as my tensioners go probably before we put it into service. All right, page 16. Now we're moving to 17. So 17 is going to be plugging up some pigtails here. So I'm going to lay this over, and I'm going to pull this around to where I can see it a little better, because I have found that these cables are kind of hard to get to. I may even have to go get me a set of pliers because I have a hard time getting my fingers in here. So these cables also are directional. So you're going to want to pay attention when you're trying to put those on there as to not put them in backwards. The white one has a clip on the top of it, but you're going to want to make sure that the little notches line up with the splines on the plug itself and kind of push those in there. This really isn't a job for my hands. I'm gonna need a tool to push that in there with. So I'm just going to use a screwdriver because my fingers are having a hard time getting in that little compartment down there. Yeesh. Got it. All right, it has a little snap to it. Once it goes all the way into where it's supposed to be, you'll hear a little snap, or at least I did. The yellow cable in the middle, like I said, it is also splined. All these cables are splined to make sure they're plugged up in the right direction. If you were to somehow plug these things in backwards, it could really cause some issues because you'd have either something running backwards from the way it's supposed to or not working, or worst case, you can start a fire. So make sure the splines on these are all facing you on the plugs as you're inserting them. Oh geez, guys, my fingers are way too big for this. Okay, going to get a pair of pliers. Be right back. All right, got me some needle nose. Maybe I can do it now. Let me grip this thing right there. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's almost to the point where I want to take that board loose to get in there. Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Bear with me, guys. I was not very well equipped for this job. Up. There we go. All right. All right, I got the yellow one in. Woo! That was a job. All right, now for the red one. Good news is there should be no disputing which one goes where. The colors should be a dead giveaway. Now, if you're like me, you may have a little hard time getting your fingers in here to get these things started. And I'm trying to be careful too, because guys, I don't want to damage this thing before I even get it put together. All right, so all three of those are securely snapped in. Whew. The yellow one posed to be the most challenge for me. So I got those. Now we're gonna need more zip ties, it says. So I'm gonna sit this thing up before we start zip tying anything, because what it's showing is with the machine expanded. There we go. All right. And so, same as the D1, you're gonna have zip ties from the midpoint back towards the control panel, holding this cable down here below. So I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie these guys. I broke one of my zip ties, so I'm kind of hoping they threw in some extras. Looks like I got enough, so we're good. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and put them all on, but I'm not gonna tighten them all the way down until I can see how I want the cable to lay, and try to keep it out of my workspace and all that. We'll probably have to train this cable just like I did with my D1, but not a big deal. So I'm coming in from the bottom. I'm gonna leave the slack on these zip ties in the bottom. Like I said, I'm not tightening them all the way up, guys. I'm just getting them around the cable and through the hole, and then I'm gonna work it to where from the controller out to the gantry. All right, so I'm gonna kind of tuck this in a little bit, get this first one right here underneath the machine, underneath the rails. Let's snug that down. Wire cutters. And I'm gonna work my way out toward the gantry, just ever so slightly to the next one. And basically, just keep the slack out, continue toward the next one. That's all I'm doing. I'm gonna leave all the slack that I can for the gantry. That way, hopefully, I don't have any cable management issues. All right, so that's that. Got those put in. So I'm gonna set this down now, and let's see what happens. Oh, I'm not liking that, guys. Yeah, we're gonna have to play with that. I see that now. Have to play with that eventually. So, I mean, I guess as long as it doesn't do it in front of the gantry, it'll be okay. But I may wind up playing with that once I get this thing in service. I'm not crazy about that layout. So, moving on to the next phase. All right, guys, I almost forgot one. I'm going to insert this. This is after I got it in the enclosure, but don't forget the little white cable that connects to limit switches. Yeah, don't forget that. All right, guys, for the next phase, we're down to this monstrous head. All right, I did notice that in the packaging, it comes with the air assist, but it also has a little stopper, I guess, in case you don't have air assist. So, and the air assist nozzle does have a little seal like piece on it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in and try to get that started. Now I would be very careful with this because you do not want to strip the threads on this thing. So be careful and make sure that it's lined up before you start putting any pressure on it. It shouldn't be all that tight. Once you get it tight, what I'm gonna do, because I wanna make sure it's good and snug, but I don't wanna get it too tight, is I'll just use this little pair of pliers here, and I'm just gonna cinch that down maybe a quarter of a turn, not even that much, with that pair of pliers, just to make sure I got a good seal there. But that's equipped and ready for the air assist now, which I think is awesome. I think XTool did a good job of including all of this for the air assist. And this machine will be running my XTool air assist. I have another air assist, but it's going to go on my D1, my 10 watt, once I get that up and going, get this one up and going. So what I'm going to do now is just pull the gantry back here to me, and I've got to get the cable that goes to the laser head, and I don't want this thing bending steeply. I want it to line up the way it's supposed to be, so I'm just going to kind of orient this to where it's going to be, but then twist it to make the connection here. It's got that same little. I'm just checking right here to make sure that there's no sharp edges on that, because I know y'all guys saw the horror stories. You know what? Give me just a minute. I'm going to show you a little hack for this too. All right, guys, call me overcautious or whatever you want to call me, but I am going to take a piece of heat shrink and I'm going to put right there where that piece of metal is. And all this is basically a buffer that will be between the wire and this module, this little piece of metal right here. And hopefully if there is this sharp edge on that, it won't give me any problems. I don't feel one, but I'm probably going to go ahead and just put me a piece of heat shrink on there just to be sure. All right. As long as they didn't make it tight enough to where that's gonna cause an issue, I prefer to have it on there. Let's see here. Lay this guy down to where I can use both hands. This one's got the splines on it as well. You'll hear a little snap once this completely engages. It's good and snug. Shouldn't let anything move. Heat shrink's doing the trick. Got a little bit extra barrier on there. So I'm gonna slide this down on there. And I know I've heard a lot of people complaining about once they get the module on there, not being able to tighten or loosen this screw. And the way they built this thing, from my understanding, is this outer part is kind of like a little socket, just spring loaded. So you got to pull that guy out, rotate it to where you want it, and then release it to catch the bolt, and it'll go in and out. Once you get it to where you need it, then it'll lock. You see, so there we go right there. And the cool, I like this idea because once you get this thing installed, you turn it up, it's loose, one flip downward, and it's tight. And you can even take, if you want, and back that thing up a notch or two so that it's even tighter. So I like that. XTool done good on that one. No need of redoing that, or no aftermarket parts. So I like that idea. Easy up and down and lock. Now, I will tell you, that's an awful small little screw there, so be gentle. It's a little longer than it probably needed to be. Screw-wise, they could have probably took some of the threads off of that, either made the screw a little bigger or made that shoulder longer to make that a little stronger, but just be gentle with that guy. So we got that on there, guys. Got it in there. I went ahead and jumped ahead. Page 22 is the thumb screw operation. So the next step that we've got to do is we've got to put our little card in. And let me make sure my camera's still recording. Oof, this thing's getting on my nerves, guys. It's time for a camera. Because I have a hard time with this, I'm going to flip this machine up. The card, it shows that the little bump on the side of the card goes toward the inside of the machine in this illustration. So I'm going to slide that guy in there and snap it in. All right, what's the next step? Congratulations, we've got it put together. All right, so before I go to put mine into service, one last thing that I want to double check, and this is a clack recommendation. This is not required, it's not in the books anywhere. I am going to recheck because, guys, I see so many people messaging me and asking me questions because they're having trouble with their machine and can't get it to cut out a line. And it almost always comes back to belt tension or timing. That's the only issues that I've really seen on a major scale. So, got that one. It's at 8 millimeters. I'm gonna zero my caliber again just to make sure. And all I'm doing is resting it in behind the caliber and pulling it up until it touches, and then pulling it straight out. So 7.8 on the second go around. So now I know that's the side that came from the factory. So this one's at about 7.2. So this one's a little tighter. So I'm gonna loosen this side over here up just a little bit. And I'm going to put a little more tension on this side, or a little less tension. My target here is 8 millimeters. That's where I want to be. I feel like that's going to be a good, happy medium. So there's 8 millimeters on this side. Let me reconfirm this side over here. Just like I said, this is one of the biggest problems that I see, and a lot of people want to blame it on XTool, and it's not. 7.7. Yeah, let me go tighter with this side. I like the way that 7.7 on the other side feels, so I'm gonna I'm going to go over here on this side and pull it down to about that 7.7 mark. $7.7. All right, tightening it down, guys. That's where I want it. So, from the 2 tensioning screws right here on the back stops, I've got 7.7 millimeters between the back of that little block and the back wall on both sides. And both sides of the belt feel and sound good. And the one final test that seems to be a pretty decent little test, I'm just going to see if it slides. So it slides pretty well. It's not slamming. It's not refusing to move. So I think that's going to be adequate. All right, guys. While I'm here, I'm going to answer a question that I've been asked in relations to my jigs and stuff, and that is the XTool D1 and the new Pro, are they the same? And while there appears to be a slight deviation in my 2 machines here, it's not much. I mean, it doesn't actually look like it's any larger. It appears to be the same. I do know that some of the machines, I've had some reports of folks saying that their machines are a little wider, but in my case, my original machine here and the new Pro appear to be really, really close to being the same. So we're going to be putting my jig back on this guy as we put it in the enclosure. So stick around for just a moment. All right, guys, for those of you that have been asking me, and I have put my jig holder over on the Pro, and let me just go and say this. When I built this, there is occasionally a need for some user input on it, all right? I made this thing close enough tolerances that it's pretty precise. Now, there are occasionally some variations in these legs. If you get that, and I had a little bit of a too snug of a fit when I put it on there. I didn't like the way it slid on. So all you need to fix that is a piece of sandpaper. And the way you do it is basically just take that sandpaper, fold it, and then just reach in there and just a little bit at a time until you get it to where it is a very snug fit, but it doesn't move. You don't want to, the problem with me making these holes bigger is if I make the holes in this bigger and your machine is one way or the other, that's going to let this piece slide from side to side or from front to back, okay? The way my jig kit works, if this piece moves, so does your jig. So I intentionally make these so tight that you may on occasion need to get a piece of sandpaper and kind of sand the edge of that hole to get it to fit to where it slides on there easily, but it's not loose and it doesn't move, because the more movement you get in this, the less accuracy you're going to have out of your jig. So, but for those guys that were asking if my design would fit this machine, it definitely does fit the machine, and looks like it would be just as effective as it is on the D1, on the regular D1. So there you have it, guys, for those that's asking. All right, guys, as you can see, I have vacated the 10 watt from the enclosure, and I'm still gonna be using it. I'm gonna give it a new home. I've got a air assist that it's gonna be getting, but I'm gonna keep my D1 air assist because I have it plumbed through my enclosure and everything. I'm gonna keep it where it's at. So we're gonna set the 20 watt in here and go ahead and try to get the air assist connected and make sure that my honeycomb feet accommodate this guy, because you know mine are actually screwed into the bed of my machine. So if there's any variation, I may have to make adjustments to get these guys to work. All right, guys, for those of you that asked for a video of the Pro being put together and installed, there it is. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this out there, because I know I've heard of there's a couple of people message me saying that they're waiting on a video before they try to put theirs together. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this pushed out, I'm gonna go inside, take a break for a minute, let the cameras cool down, charge. And then I'll be coming back out here, and I'm gonna also go through the computerized setup process, installing the software. I haven't downloaded the software or anything, so we're gonna switch over to the computer for the next video, and I'm gonna run it solely off the computer. And we're gonna do one of downloading the new software, updating the firmware, and then putting it into motion, setting up Lightburn, all that good stuff. But we'll be doing that off of the computer here in just a little bit once I take me a break and get this video here prepped for all you guys that's out there waiting on it. So I appreciate you stopping by. If you hadn't already, guys, hit the subscribe button. I'm also going to be taking my D1, my XTool D1 10 watt, and it's going to be using the new ComGrow Air Assist that y'all may have seen the video where I did it on it. I'm going to be running that and the ComGrow enclosure on my 10 watt temporarily until I can get a shelter built. And I'm going to build another enclosure similar to this one, but I've been asked for blueprints, measurements, dimensions, and a video. And so the next enclosure that I build, like this one, I will be doing a blueprint that I will make available to everybody free of charge. I will have a video showing you the steps that I go through, and just kind of walk you through the process and show you the dimensions. And like I said, I'm not a very good artist. I may try to draw this thing up in a software or something so it looks better, but I'll even give you the dimensions and all that and try to blueprint it out so you'll have that. But that's it for today, guys. So I appreciate you stopping by, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can get reminders when I drop a new video, because now that I've got the new Pro in, we're gonna be doing some testing, and I'm gonna be doing some playing around with some different materials, and it's gonna be fun. So come back to see us and have a good day.